back. This is Morning Cafe and hashtag Morning Cafe as September is a recovery month, and I have very great guests right here with me. The conversation has just begun before we even begin right here. They look lovely, they look, psyched up to actually begin this conversation. I'll introduce them, but then they'll obviously introduce themselves more. And Matthu, the Vice Chair of Nakada Board. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Kusalama.
Sir Kabisa.
We'll, definitely even the viewers like, I've seen her somewhere. Mm-hmm. I've seen her saying her story somewhere.
Yeah.
You'll be giving us that particular story and
yes,
your recovery process more, even for the viewer.
Okay.
And Job Githinji Maina, an addictions practitioner. Karibu sana.
Yes, thank you.
Uko salama?
Kabisa.
Yeah. And Kaatha Mwendwa, the founder of Sober Youth Summit.
Yes, Sober Living Youth Summit.
Sober Living Youth Summit.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
I'll start with you, Matthu. Even for the viewers, like, I've seen her somewhere. She's probably told her, story. I was like, that particular story, ile story ya changa, ile story ya jet fuel. I've heard that story somewhere. They're very curious. Tell us, who is Matthu?
Hata wewe unajua story ya Mandege.
Your story nimefuatilia sana.
Okay, my name is Matthu. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for 18 years.
Okay.
I did alcohol for more than 20 years. And it messed my life a lot. There's we lose a lot in the addiction field, and there's a lot of discrimination, a lot of stigma, a lot of hatred, a lot of labeling from people, and it's a very lonely world. Addiction is a world where you are among people, but a very lonely person, because one, I did not understand myself. And I did not understand why people did not understand me. Until later when I went to rehab and actually realized or came to learn that I was actually a very sick person. And through family therapy, my family was able to know that I was actually sick. And I was able to get very good support from the family upon discharge from the rehabilitation center. My recovery has been uninterrupted, so I've never taken a sip of alcohol since I left rehab. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll now come to you, Job. Even this particular month, as we say, recovery month. You can first of all tell us who's Job, what does an addictions practitioner do out here, and are you probably recovering from something out here?
We're all recovering from something.
I also remember after Mani was beaten, I was recovering also, so that counts.
Actually, I'm also recovering from that beat down. We pray things will be a bit kinder for us.
Oh yes.
I'm Job Githinji Maina. I'm a trained psychologist. Mm-hmm. My area of specialization is the treatment and management of addictions, as well as management of other underlying psychiatric conditions. Helping people rediscover themselves has been part of my life for the last 15, 16 years. Yes, I'm also in a recovery. I'm almost clocking 20 years sober. Mm-hmm. And like Matthu, mine wasn't smooth. I had to try treatment once or twice before I got the hang of it. And that is how I ended up landing in psychology, trained in psychology, then eventually became a practitioner. A practitioner just means somebody who practices in that field, has gone through the proper credentializing, and has, I'd say, if I may pick one thing, is that we did treatment when it was very, very rudimental, mm-hmm. when it was a trial and error thing. But when we look at the early 2000s and today, there's a lot of professionalism, there's a lot of incorporation of different aspects. And I'd say nowadays people are getting quality services in terms of management and treatment of the condition that they are suffering from.
No, we'll get there. I mean, taking a look at the numbers here, 150 about rehabilitation centers vis-a-vis what you're telling us. We'll get to that. Even as what you do, I'm pretty sure you really work with most of the rehabilitation centers. But then, Kaatha, tell us who you are, what you do, and maybe your story.
Great. My name is Kaatha Mwendwa. I am a mother. I love Jesus. I'm a nutritionist by profession.
Okay.
And I'm in recovery. I was an alcoholic for so many years. A habit, that is the drinking and the smoking, I picked up when I had just joined flying school. I desired to be a pilot all my life, and my parents were able to take me to flying school. I got the first license, and I was ready for that world. And something happened in between, and I ended up in university to pursue nutrition.
Okay.
And that was a dream that was curtailed. And I believe that's where the challenges came in. To cope with this new reality of a career path that was not my passion, was not something that I expected for myself. Because I had learned how to drink and smoke in flying school when I was in campus, I would rush for those drugs to cope and to handle those days when I was not happy. I graduated with a degree in nutrition, and I say I graduated with a degree in alcoholism because I was drinking often, and even when I got into employment, got a high-flying job, alcohol became something that was normal in my life. And at the beginning it was okay, I could manage, you know, you're drinking after work, but now it's becoming more drinking hours. Your tolerance increases. That was for me, and to a point where it interfered with everything. I had to resign from jobs because I knew it was interfering with performance. I was in denial that I had a condition or alcoholism. So that is the kind of life I lived until 2016 when one night I slept an alcoholic and I woke up with no desire to drink or smoke. So I believe mine was a divine intervention from God. So since December 2016, never had cravings for alcohol. I've gone on with my life, cut off so many of the friends I used to hang out with, the places I'd go to. Until last year, when I was 5 years sober, I was reminded of that past. And there was this call to just share my story and start creating awareness. Alcohol is glamorized, normalized, but they don't tell you about the consequences. You don't become an alcoholic overnight, but it is progressive. So when I was pushed in that direction by my God, I was scared because, number one, I feared, what will people think? That's what they call stigma. What will people say? What will my family feel? You know, I'm going public with this personal shame. But by day 3, I don't know if people know, when you're called by God to do something, all that goes, the shame, the condemnation. So I just found myself last year in March, on the 4th, coming out and saying, yes, I struggled with alcohol, I've been sober for so many years, and you're not alone. And it has then led to setting up a community-based organization called Grace for Youth Recovery Center. We operate from Kiambu County, and we launched our first Sober Living Youth Summit to bring in different people. When
was that?
November of 2022. So we launched it, and we do meetings, and we call them summits, sometimes in the grassroots, in the mashinani, in universities, in colleges, in churches, so that we can bring lived experiences, people who have been through that mess of alcoholism. It's a mess, you know, and just telling them, if you're in this space, we are here, there is help, there is treatment, various options of treatment. And number 2, because of the stigma, forgive yourself, face that past, and you will be able to overcome. And then number 3, just emphasize or make noise, the positive noise that if we don't do something about it, our youth will be consumed by alcoholism. Something that is glamorized, we need to, government, together with all stakeholders, we need to address that now. Just because these drugs are legal does not mean they're not harmful. That is how people perceive it. So that is how I found myself in this space.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, since 2016, have you ever wanted to be high? Well, as a pilot, though. Being out there, being as a pilot, well, you went to.
No, I didn't pursue. I didn't continue with the aviation.
Do you feel like I should have been a pilot?
I will be. I am. I will. I will fly my planes. I have a dream. In my dream chart, in my vision, Okay. Yeah. So I have a private pilot's license that's current, and I will pursue a commercial license. Maybe fly for my own, because getting employed now, going commercial, I don't think so. But there are still aspirations. But I've dealt with that loss. That's the point. I've dealt with it.
Okay.
It caused me a lot of harm, and that's why I drank for so many years, because I was stuck as a 19-year-old. I was living life in my 20s, in my early 30s, but stuck at that 19-year-old who did not pursue the career of choice because of various circumstances.
Right.
Yeah.
Matthu, when the week began, we were taking a look at the whole paper review, and we were taking a look at some numbers, some big numbers and statistics across the country, according to the recent NACADA report on stating that alcohol is the most abused drug. You're the vice chair of NACADA board. Take us through, briefly, what, away from what we were actually seeing, what Kenyans were actually taking a look at from the news and even from the papers, more on that, give us some meat on the bones of this, what we were taking a look at.
Actually, we, as we speak now, we have more than 1.3 million Kenyans with alcohol use disorder. And when you talk about people with alcohol use disorder, it's people who need rehab interventions ASAP. Currently, we have just very few government rehabilitation centers, I think, less than 10, and the rest of them are private. Most of these people cannot afford. And I always say, treatment and rehabilitation doesn't have to be expensive to be effective. We can do something like, I am very, very grateful to what the second lady is doing, Pastor Dorcas. She has put tents in Jamhuri Park. And even when she visited our rehab in Miritini, she said, put tents everywhere, let us rescue lives. Because the most important thing is it's not the building, it's not the structure. It is saving lives. That's the most important thing. For example, I went to rehab. Kaatha never went to rehab. There are very many avenues that people can use to get sober. The most important thing is getting sober, and not only getting sober, but maintaining that sobriety. So we are in a crisis. I can't say we are not in a crisis where alcohol and drug abuse is concerned. We are in a crisis. And I would urge everybody, we need, what we need right now is collective responsibility. We cannot say this is a government thing. We cannot say this is, and Matthu has to know she's the vice chair. She has to know what to do with the country. It calls for the individual to take responsibility, has to seek him for help. Although now help is not readily available. Why? Because counties have not come up with treatment facilities. Like you had the deputy president saying, in most of the forums, you are collecting money from licensing of bars. This money is percentage of this money is supposed to go to treatment, rehabilitation, psychosocial support, and prevention. So public awareness, public education, which is not happening. So if we would have rehab at the county level, and then these people, people with the substance use disorder are paid for through NHIF, right. Because actually, like alcohol in the NACADA 2012 Amendment Act, it stipulates that alcoholism is a disease. So NHIF, some of the rehabs right now have been accredited But if we had government, every county had a government, a treatment facility that is NHIF accredited, would be able to help very many people. Now again, what we are looking at is community-based programs. We use the community-based approach, like what Kaatha is doing, like what the second lady is doing. Go to the people. Let the people know that this is a disease. Then we have people working with the people who are suffering.
Right.
And actually the best people to do that are people who've been in recovery before. Personally, I am not sober because I went through some medical detox or I went through a psychiatrist or a psychologist. No. In the rehab where I was, in fact, our counselors were never trained. They were just people who had done the program and were actually over 5 years sober. They are the ones who are again being re-employed in the treatment facilities. So I'm sober because another recovering alcoholic held my hand and worked with me. And even upon discharge, the same thing happened. Right. So it's not what avenue you use to get sober, but the most important thing is getting sober. It can be through the church, it can be through community-based approach, which are affordable and accessible. For example, how many children have been helped through that program? Very many. Right now we have about 300 in Jamhuri Park who are going to get help. Yes.
What was the most outstanding revelation for you in that NACADA report?
It's the high rate at which now young people are taking marijuana. Because marijuana now, young people are taking more of marijuana than actually the alcohol. So when you look at the statistics, you'll see like Nairobi area is leading in marijuana. And marijuana, we even have synthetic marijuana. You don't have to smoke and everybody is saying that you're smoking. Yeah. We have others, is it Velo? Velo is tobacco. It's a tobacco product. Nicotine. Kuna zingine zimekuja in terms of tablets and others in form of patches. So we have different types of drugs. And like before, when you had to, everybody would know you're smoking marijuana. Everybody would know you are injecting a drug. These days we have, like the other day I saw in Mombasa, whereby I think there was a shortage of heroin. And so what they were doing is actually taking diazepam, 1 tablet of diazepam, crushing it, mixing it with marijuana, and getting high the whole day. So how they came up with that, I do not know. So that's what we are saying. The most important thing is get treatment, get a person to work with you in rehab and after rehab, because it's important even after rehabilitation center. Because actually we will go, because NACADA has the supply suppression, it's two-pronged, the campaign is two-pronged. We have demand reduction and supply suppression. And these ones, they have to go hand in hand. We cannot say that we are going to actually close in only on supply suppression, because that creates room for cross addiction. Right. And actually what they'll cross addict to is actually what we call legal drugs. Something like alcohol, something like cat, something that will be readily available. Because actually when you're doing supply suppression, you cannot suppress all the drugs. You'll say, okay, fine, we're doing heroin and cocaine. What about marijuana? They will simply cross to marijuana. You suppress the marijuana, they will go back now to the portable alcoholic drinks. You suppress that one, the heroin has started. So you'll be ever in a vicious cycle. But if we close in on demand reduction, and that's what I believe personally, that's my opinion, you reduce the demand through interventions, through rehabilitation, through community-based approaches, then, for example, we are here, we are recovering alcoholics. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I don't know what he did, I don't know what she did. But if you bring heroin here, we won't take. You bring cocaine here, we won't take. You bring marijuana, you bring alcohol, we won't take. Why? We have the knowledge, we have the facts on our fingertips. We've been told that addiction is a progressive disease, it's a relapsing disease. We have all those facts. So what happens? If a person was actually dealing with heroin here, and he brings heroin and finds nobody's taking heroin, everybody has turned to tea, will he come back here? No. He will not come, the customers have changed. No, they're taking coffee. So he'll either change the business to bring in coffee, or he'll look for another place. Okay. So I believe more on demand reduction, although supply suppression also is very important.
Givenja, I want to stick still with the numbers here. That particular report, so Nakada says 3.2% of primary school pupils use or abuse tobacco as compared to 2.6% of alcohol, and 3.8% of secondary school students use alcohol. It also shows that 82,517 secondary school students were abusing alcohol in 2022. This, if you're taking a look at a student or a pupil who is maybe, for example, in the 844 system, is in class 8 or class 7, this pupil is about 13 years old, and they're starting to use tobacco. When they, maybe 5 years later, they'll probably be now out of secondary school, or maybe even in Form 4, they might, chances are they might still be using, some of this. How worrying is this even for you? I mean, you probably be meeting some of this in your line of field.
If I may put something first, anybody under 18 cannot use. They're abusing. So anybody under the age of 18, even for the legal substances, it is abusing because one, this is a person who is still developing, most physically and also mentally. And when we focus actually on the brain, it is in its last stages of development, and introducing anything alien to the brain. Actually, they are more at risk not only of becoming addicted, but developing underlying psychiatric psychological conditions. One of the things we've been noting that should be very worrying even to the government itself is that a lot of young people are presenting or coming to treatment while already having an underlying psychiatric condition, which might be directly as a result of the substance use. So for us, the implication is not just worrying in terms of addiction, it is also worrying in terms of the mental health burden that it comes with. It is also worrying in terms of delinquency, for lack of a better word, because a minor is not working. How are they able to sustain that drug habit? It means they will engage in an illegality, either petty crime, either what we call transactional sex, either armed crime, as we've seen in parts of Westlands and Eastlands, I'm not profiling. So drug use will bring a myriad of problems. And that's why we are saying the earlier you intervene, the higher the chances of success. So for such young people who are experimenting, we are saying they don't need that to be locked up, to be checked into rehab. All they need to is if we intervene early.
But then, even as you continue, I mean, the same report shows that the minimum initiation age, even for alcohol, is 7 years old. Would you say that a 7-year-old, that's about, I mean, someone who's in maybe class 1 or maybe I think grade 1, are they experimenting, or now it's effect? Is it monkey see, monkey do kind of thing?
It's a bit of all. You know, the sad thing is that they are learning it right at home. They are not learning about it in the bars, because that 8 to 11 years old, where is he mirroring that? Where is he seeing it from? So the influences of parental use, the exposures from social media, the glamorization, especially for the older siblings or the younger uncles. You see the ones who are coming from Nairobi with the Audis, with the VWs, with the Subarus, talking how they had fun. So there is a way people have been socialized that anytime the word fun comes in, the element of use is there. That's what I was saying in terms of intervention. You don't only intervene on the person who is using, you also intervene on the environment that they are in. Number one. And I'm happy because NACAD has this program called Positive Parenting. We are not saying parents not to enjoy their beer or two. But if your beer or two is making this junior want to try whatever the father is drinking, don't you think that is worrying? Because I had an experience in a supermarket. I was doing shopping. Then there was a couple with a young child who were doing their shopping. Then they passed by the liquor joint. And then the kid pulled the mother and told the mother, "Ndoile soda ya daddy." So you see, even if this kid is not drinking, they already know. So the first intervention is at home. That we need to know whatever we do, we take responsibility We don't encourage it vicariously or unconsciously to the children. Number two, these secondary school students are buying the substances from somebody. So you see, for us as the rehabs or the professionals, our hands are tied, because if we treat you, then you go back to the society, and the society is providing the same substances to you. It's supposed to be criminal, because not only for that, even if I know this person was an addict, he's making an effort to remain sober, then I gladly sell him alcohol. I'm killing this person. I'm selling this person poison.
But then, and Kaatha, I want you to come in on this, because you definitely have a CBO on this. Hypothetically, the maybe 12-year-old kid goes to the phone. Probably the 12-year-old kid has a phone, and they go to an application. They can order or alcohol or either the tobacco substance that Velo, for example. They order it online. Whoever is delivering it doesn't know if this is a 34-year-old or a 52-year-old. They're delivering it to the house. Probably somebody else, or even the kid is going to pick it up. The one who delivered does not know if it is that kid who's going to be using it. How do we solve that?
I think we need to, that's actually one of the major avenues. Children or the young people are accessing drugs, the online sales and platforms. I like when we talk about awareness and alcohol and drugs, when we are saying put people first, we need to start putting people first. Yes, there are laws that are saying if you're 18 and under, you cannot access these drugs. But many people are not caring who they are selling to. They are looking for the profit. So if we ourselves would be professional enough not to sell to underage, then that is the beginning of some positive change. Online, we need to have stricter rules so that the people who are delivering at home, they have to prove that you are of age. And those are the discussions we need to be having. How are you allowing an underage child to pick drugs, whether they're the ones who ordered or not? That is against the law. So if we can be able to have enforcements, and these outlets, they are known, the ones that are delivering, can be strict on that, then we can solve a huge gap. That is one of the hugest gaps, online sales. And because we are governed by laws, and there is the ADCA of 2010, and counties have their own laws, online points of sales have to be addressed. There has to be stiffer penalties if you're caught distributing to underage or you're caught selling. You should make it harder that if they're ordering online, you have to have a proof of age, that they are 18 and above, amongst other things. But that's the number one loophole. Many young people, and I have experienced it and I have seen it, are ordering online. They'll order the vape online, they'll order the alcohol online, they'll order all kinds of drugs online. And the rider does not care. All they want is the profits or to make sales. So we need to be human. I always keep saying, can you put yourself in someone's shoe? If that was your child, would you really sell to that child? We need to be humane when we're addressing these issues. But I believe that is more on the law enforcement and putting regulations on that.
All right.
Yeah.
Matthu is now an authority. I mean, this is where you come in. It's one thing to have stricter penalties, as she mentions, but it's another thing to actually actualize them. When you take a look at even Kenya's judicial system, some cases will last in court for years on end. How can we actually even actualize the same?
Actually, this is a big problem that we're having, because for example, even about 2 days ago, somebody was arrested with 15 kgs of bangi in my home area. And this person was taken to court yesterday. And this is a person who's been to that court about 5 times. She does the business with her own father. So the father managed to escape with a lot of bangi. So what was found in the house was 15 kg. So every time they are taken to court, they are given a bond or a bail. And this is 20,000. And when I spoke to the people who were there, you know, she was like, mnagoja nini, simunipeleke, sinikotini kesho alafu tutakuwa na nyinyi. So at times, even by the time that now the police officers leave the court, the ones who have taken these people to court, they find them already, they're in the shopping center. So actually getting demoralized. So the criminal justice systems, surely they have to do, first of all, bangi is an illegal drug in Kenya. So kusema kweli, if someone is arrested with 15 kg and she has another pending case of the same, about to, and you still give them a bond or a bail, surely how are we going to you know, curb this menace? And that's why I said it calls for a collective responsibility. Because the ODPP, the prosecutors, and they are failing us in a way. Because if you arrest these people with illegal drugs and then we just let them go scot-free, the people who are the arresting officers definitely get demoralized. They will see, and you know, actually, the dealers are making fun of them. Si unishike tena na unipeleke na kesho bado tutakuwa pamoja. So you know, when we talk about collective responsibilities, every department, every ministry has to be responsible. If it's anti-narcotics, I know they are doing very good work. What is failing us is the criminal justice system. They are failing us in a big way.
All right.
Yes.
When that particular report was released, I was taking a look at a number of comments on social media, even as you were asking, you know, Kenyans, do they feel like the war against drug abuse, are we losing this particular, you know, war against drug abuse? And I'll get your sentiments even as we wrap up on the same. And a number of interesting, you know, comments were, if we're having Moratina, if you're having the local brew, the changa, and all this, what if it is well packaged? It has a brand, you know, has KEBS approval and all that, and that it is sold. You know, can that reduce the number of illicit, you know, the uptick of the illicit brew that is in the country?
Actually, it's very, very difficult to control something that is illegal. Very difficult to control something that is illegal. But when something is legal, you are able to control it. So, like Moratina, if we look at the former years, you know, when our grandfather used to make that Moratina, we didn't have the additives that we are having now. Formaldehyde, mortuary, panties, sanitary pads, and all that. So, again, we become too money-minded. Those days, they used to make that Moratina for an occasion. Maybe during rites of passage and all that. And then they were governed by their own customary rules and laws.
Yeah.
So it was not commercialized. So the moment it became commercialized, that's when we have all these things coming in. There are some other stones they add. Which ones are those? In Naiva within a few hours. Job knows that very well, those stones.
You? Not that I'm the brewer, but just to add to what she's saying and what we had asked earlier, one of the things we need to, communities need to be involved as much as we are saying the responsibility lies with the governing bodies, is that communities, the same way we are having bars, why can't you have communities developing sober clubs, sober environments? And I like it. Along Maroroi, there's an alcohol-free bar. Where people can go eat their choma, go relax. So one of the biggest challenges in addressing drug is that it's become a culture. It's become part of who we are. However, as much as the numbers are high, I would say not everything is doomed. We are talking about it. The first step to dealing with the problem is acknowledging the problem, looking at its magnitude, then coming and identifying what are the avenues for help. I'm part of a body of rehab owners. It's called Addiction Prevention and Rehabilitation Association of Kenya. We have around 120, 150 rehabs that have come under one umbrella body to be able to provide services that are cognizant to the needs of Kenya, and not only provide primary treatment, but provide continuing care. One of the challenges we've had in managing addiction is we treat it as an acute disease. Vile mtu ako na malaria, anapeagwa dawa ya malaria, and then tunasema amepona, tunamwachilia. In terms of management of addictive disorders, long-term management is very, very critical. That after they've done the stint of rehabilitation, they've been stabilized, they've been made to understand where they cannot use, then they can be transitioned to support systems like Alcoholic Anonymous, Narcotic Anonymous for the drug user, then the Al-Anon for the families of the drug user, then for Alatin. So one of these resources, like in Kenya, you have a very vibrant recovery community. All Kenyans need to do is Google Alcoholic Anonymous Kenya. And you don't have to go there physically.
Actually, I mean, this has always been a conversation. I mean, how active is AA? If you're probably watching a series, in any Netflix series, you'll probably see, just out of the blues, they have an AA meeting. So, I mean, even in the West, it shows you how big of a deal the AA system is. I mean, how big of a deal is it in Kenya?
It's very, okay, I'm not authorized to speak on behalf of AA, but AA is a free service. Initially, they were concentrated within Nairobi, but we're in the satellite towns and their online meetings. One of the reasons we are here is to share both these resources. As we are celebrating the Recovery Month, we need to tell people don't have to wait until you go to rehab to help a person. Also, we are saying we understand the economic situation. And our chairman, Boniface Dirango, is one of the kind souls that we have.
Yeah.
I've rarely seen somebody go to him for help and he stand back even without funds. So even us as rehab owners, we are not at geared or at admitting, dealing with the people. No, we are part of the process. We assist. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, there is a big problem, but there are resources. However, we need support as service providers, and it's not only rehabs. There are counselors who do outpatient counseling. There are psychiatrists, there are CBOs like her. We are grateful to NACADA because they've taken us through a lot of trainings and we've been able to professionalize our work. At the same time, they've helped in credentializing, coming, checking the rehabs and to see if the rehabs are up to standard. So one of the things, as a professional body, we are trying to regulate ourselves, but usually say before you place somebody into treatment, why don't you consult the NACADA helpline? They give you a rehab that is accredited, or better still come to us, APRAC. Yes. And as APRAC will tell you, depending on the need and depending on where you are, you don't have to come all the way from Bungoma to come for treatment in Nairobi when you have somebody like Ben in Webuye. So we've created a strong network. Yes, there's a problem, but there's a solution. So
apart from the rehabilitation centers that are there, there are other...
A lot of outpatient programs. A lot of, like, there's one in Ngara, there's one in Kawangware, there are several in Mombasa.
Drop-in centers.
There are drop-in centers. Even us as rehabs, we don't just specialize in residential, we also do outpatient.
But how effective is a rehabilitation center as compared to others? I mean, we do have about 150 of them, the registered rehabilitation centers. Well, the government, the Deputy President earlier this month said that they're going to have a rehabilitation center in each and every single county. So maybe to add to that number. But then how effective is the rehabilitation center with all the amenities that should be there as compared to now, as you're mentioning, the drop-in centers?
Now, in a nutshell, let me put it this way. It's similar as asking how successful is a dispensary compared to a hospital. Okay. You see, we treat people as according to their level of need. If there's a person who is in the early stages of addiction, the addiction has not ravaged the body physically, and they are highly motivated, that one will benefit from outpatient. If we keep him in rehab, we are not helping him. But and rehabs also have a range. There are rehabs that are strong medically. There are rehabs that are strong psychotherapy-wise. So in rehab, people are not just taken into rehab. There are needs that are met. Because if somebody is withdrawing, is having the tremors, telling such a person to quit abruptly, you are putting their life at risk. So how successful is rehab? We are here. Do you need to say more? It is there.
Does it depend on the rehab or the person? Where does it stand?
A bit of both.
Both.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm very happy that we've been able to professionalize treatment. From back in the early days where we didn't believe, they never believed in the role of medication. Let me walk you through what happens in a rehab. It's not only counselors who are there. There are other service providers. We work with medical officers. I'm a psychologist. I cannot prescribe medication. The medical officer will come. Will not only check at the effects of the drug, they'll also check how are your sugars, how is your pressure? Are there any infections in the body? So as we are counseling your brain, you're also treating your body. We also have social workers, because we say after we treat you, we are releasing you to the society. How grounded are you to go back to society? We want to call you a family, because sometimes, unfortunately, it is the family that suffers more than the addict.
Yes.
You know, me as an addict, I can be okay with my lifestyle. It is Anne, my mother, who is troubled with my drinking. So we also counsel the family. Then there is a spiritual component that we don't just want this person to quit using. We want this person to lead a purposeful life, and also to be a reproductive member of society.
Basically prepping them how to
live. So as they live, you're also telling this community, give this person benefit of
the
doubt. See ati akikuja, you are gauging him with the lenses that you are using last year.
Bado anatembea vifani.
We have a lot. One of the advantages of social media is we have a lot of thriving recovery resources. I think what we'll do next time, we'll come with a list of those resources. But a quick one is what I've told you. They can Google APRAC on the website. They can Google Alcoholic Anonymous Kenya. They can also use resources beyond Kenya, like Celebrate Recovery. So actually this month, our key purpose is not to talk about addiction, because we know a lot about addiction. We know even the numbers about addiction, but we need to start talking about recovery.
And now at that point, you had mentioned a very interesting bit of now from the rehabilitation center, recovering now back home. And Kaatha, I mean, for your CBO, you'll probably be hitting a year in next month, but one. In all this, time, what's your experience with recovering addicts now from the rehabilitation center, or just people trying to recover, and even how their families are, because I mean you'd find mostly the families are themselves in denial.
Yeah, I agree with what he's saying. The support or aftercare is very important, because you're going back to an environment. If you're going back to the same environment, there's so many triggers around you. So what we are doing in the community is we are walking the journey with you. Like he has mentioned, the resources, we're encouraging people to get into these support systems that are available, the 12-step programs, even after whichever treatment option you go for. And then talking about it is very important. These conversations that have to keep going on, so that just like diabetes or sickle cell anemia or high blood pressure and all these non-communicable diseases that we are talking about freely, and people are getting the care, then we can stop putting addiction in its own box, yet it is also a public health issue. So in the community, that's what we are, I'm uploading the interventions that include the church, the counselors, and the people in the community, so that they can understand, oh, you mean this is a disease, or they've come out of recovery. We need to encourage them with words, give them hope, and even open our places of work and give them some employment. That's what stop discrimination means. That don't judge me by my past because I used to drink. Also offer me an opportunity. But remember, you are walking this journey with someone. There are people who call them sponsors, there are people who call them mentors. It is important to have someone you're walking this journey with, and that is what we are offering in the community. I also want to mention something, is that there's always this mentality, the before and after. Not everyone slept kwa mtaro. Not everyone looked emaciated. There's this terminology, functional alcoholic. There are many in the corporate spaces, in homes, in communities. Those are the people also we are trying to reach out to, that they can be able to know that there is help. You need to reach out, you're not alone. Many people are drinking in the closet alone. When people are asleep, they are in their rooms sipping a drink. Many people don't know what the symptoms of addiction are or of a problem are, neither do the family members. If we can be able to create that awareness so that people can learn, know, and know where to seek the help,
Right.
then that's what we are doing as a community-based organization. The little we can, where we are, then it goes a long way in filling in some gaps.
Okay.
And then finally, I'm just, our community-based organization is part of some of the civil society organizations that are part of an initiative called Reset Alcohol. And because alcohol is a burden world over, and especially in the developing countries, there is people who have come in so that they can help us, together with government, which is NACADA and Ministry of Health, to address those issues. And here we want to talk about policies and laws. Kenya has wonderful policies. Kenya has wonderful laws.
believe
But
you me.
enforcement and following up to it is what is a challenge. So I believe also such kind of advocacy helps. You cannot solve all problems, but someone can focus on this area while someone else is doing some part there, and we all are able to achieve that common goal. So even the media, we are encouraging you. Just the other day, NACADA had a media breakfast, but we're saying media can help us. Journalists can help us to write this narrative on the harm alcohol is causing. Not the stats only, but every other time highlighting that it is a pandemic, it needs funding, it needs the attention. And if you are a person who is struggling with addiction, know it is possible, because people are recovering every day.
Right.
And I normally talk to that person who was in a place like me. And number one, I say, what is it you're passionate about? Pick it up. Be passionate. Forget about the naysayers. Forget about the people who knew you when you were drunk, driving under the influence, or when you were dancing on the tables, and when you were doing crazy things. You know, because the behavior is what is affected. Just pick on that passion and affirm yourself daily. Number two, you have the power. Keep telling yourself it is possible. There are days that are dark and you're wondering, what am I doing? Oh, blah, blah, blah. But just give yourself affirmations that you have power within you to overcome a day at a time. And then finally, live your purpose.
Right.
Many people are unhappy. Many people are living lives that are unsatisfying because they're not living purpose.
Okay.
But if you are able to reflect into your life and ask yourself, what is it that I was created to do? When you're aligned with purpose, then life starts making more sense and you're able to thrive.
Right.
Yeah, and then having such conversations in every area, from parliament to university to colleges to churches to prisons, is going to help us. When the airwaves are filled with positivity, with hope, then I believe we will have a very positive, sober nation.
Okay.
Together.
You had mentioned a point, Matthu, the symptoms of someone who has addiction, and I saw a question here, and I think Joby will react to that later on. Who is an addict even? I mean, someone might be wondering, mi kunywanga weekend peke yake, ama tu once a month, nikiitwa sherehe, ni addict kweli. And by the way, even for our viewers, they can always call in live. The number is just below your screens. But before that, Kaatha had mentioned something about environment. And even during the rehabilitation process, I'm pretty sure even for the recovering addicts, they are mentioned about this. Now after, for the recovery process, should you be going back to the same place that you used to live in, the same kind of friends? Because as she was mentioning, there are risk factors to this. Should you be going to this? Is that advisable?
First of all, before I answer your question,
Okay.
I want to add on to what Kaatha and Job had said about the support groups. We have a new one now called ACOA. ACOA is Adult Children of Alcoholics. That one was very it's working well in the US,
Right.
but it's something that has been here, I think, for 2 years now. Many people don't know about it. It's at Anderson Plaza in Nairobi Hospital,
Okay.
7th floor. I think they meet on Tuesdays at 12:30. So adult children of alcoholics actually, due to childhood traumatic moments when their parents were drinking, they get to affect them later. So my daughter has been in ACOA for the last, I think, 5 to 6 years, and has really helped her. Because, being an absent parent, the fights, the quarrels and all that, people tend to think that children don't suffer, but children really do suffer. So children of alcoholics, they might not drink, but they will have very difficult moments in life, and you find that they don't get, even if they get into relationships, they don't last. Those relationships don't last. Why? Because most of them have trust issues. They never trusted the parents. The parents always said, I'll be back after 1 hour. They stay for 2-3 days. So they suffer from some issues. But my daughter is telling me that it's very helpful, and I'm glad that we have it here in Kenya. Yeah, so support is very important. About environment. In the rehab, we are told to avoid people, places, and things.
Oh, yes.
We call it PPT. Yeah, people, places, and things. So if you can be able to avoid the people that you've been drinking with, and stop going back to your comfort zone. Personally, I was born and brought up in Thika. All my life I drank in Thika, including the jet fuel you're talking about. So after rehab, I never went back to Thika because that was my comfort zone. That is where I had a lot of friends. That was my drinking base. And so I made a decision, and when we were doing the exit planning, like Job said, that before discharge, there has to be an exit plan. An exit plan is where the family and significant others come in and decide what are we going to do to this person. And one of the reasons why there is a lot of relapses, because at times when you call the family for family therapy, they say "Mi sina shida," and they will not come. So when this person is discharged from the rehab, they go to a very toxic environment whereby the person feels misunderstood. Everybody starts hiding their own phones because, okay, fine, before he used to steal. But within these 3 months, he's really struggled to become a better person. Yet nobody appreciates his efforts. And that's why relapse happens a lot. And actually, most of the relapse is caused by family members and within the family setting where that person has gone back to. Okay. And that's why in rehab, there's also the couple counseling. There's also children therapy, so that when this person comes back home, they've all healed. You cannot treat one person, like Job said, it's a family disease, and leave the rest of the family. They are going to lead him into a relapse. Yes. All right.
I'm being told that we had due a short break, but then I'm curious. All those years in Thika, have you ever gone back to Thika? Have you ever, the same particular place where the jet fuel incident happened, trying to pick up those who are still there? I'll get that answer, and even for the viewers, they're curious about that. Okay. Now, as the vice chair of Nakada board, yes. have you gone back now to that place all those years later? You can always be part of this conversation. It's definitely at TV47 News on Facebook, at TV47 on Facebook, on X rather, at TV47 on Facebook. The number is on your screens. When we come back, after credit to Piggy Simu and be part of this conversation. We'll be right back. Right, some 5 minutes past the top of the hour according to my chronometer. We are discussing, September is actually the recovery month, and we're discussing matters how to actually recover, but then now matters drug abuse. And if you're just joining us, having this particular conversation with Matthu, who's the Vice Chair of NACADA Board, and Job Kithinji, minor addiction practitioner, and then Kaatha Mwendwa, who's the founder of Sober Living Youth Summit. Before the break, I'd asked Matthu to tell us, well, some years ago, is it 16 years ago?
18.
18 years ago. Mm-hmm. That was the last time you were now in Thika, Vizuri.
Yes.
You know, when we mention Thika, you always know Thika is the place to go if you want that kind of fun. Mm-hmm. Yes. Have you ever gone back to Thika?
Yeah, I do. I usually go back to Thika, but to pick an addict. Or to
the same place you
yes,
used to?
Yes, to pick a person who needs to go to rehab. I don't go to Thika to socialize.
Okay.
I don't go to Thika to socialize. And if anything, there's nobody to socialize with, because actually all my friends, the ones we grew up with, are dead.
Yeah.
No one remembers you there?
A few, very few. And the few that are there are drinking. And so I don't think we can have any tangible conversation with them. Mm-hmm. Some of them can control their drinking, others cannot control their drinking. So at times I end up getting bored. So I would rather go in an AA meeting, or I would rather go in a party where it is alcohol free, mm-hmm. other than to go back to the dens and sit there and see how people are getting drunk. Mm-hmm. But I actually went to Kiandutu slums, where I was rescued from, mm-hmm. and I actually rescued a lady whose son came out openly and said, my mom needs help. If nobody helps my mom is going to die. So the son came out openly on social media, and actually I talked to one of the rehab owners, and actually he watched the clip, and he told me, Anne, can you find out where this lady lives? And tomorrow morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, mm-hmm. we'll pick her up. Because usually when we're picking them up, we go at 5. Kabla aende kutoa lock. Akitoa lock, you will not see them.
True.
Akitoa lock, you will not see them, or they have changed their mind.
And actually, even before you continue now, because I've visited a number of rehabilitation centers, even some in Kiambu, Kirigiti, just to mention a few. There's a Hadi Rehabilitation Center, and what I was being told, even for those who are there, is venye mimi niliingia hapa mimi sijui. Mimi niliambiwa tunaenda kazi mahali. Just asubuhi tu, the dad tells him we're going for work. Kumbe anaingizwa mahali, into a rehabilitation center. Others are being told tunaenda kusalimia mtu. Why does that happen? I mean, why will the whole purpose of maybe tricking them into getting into a rehabilitation center?
Because you're simply saving a life. If you wait for an addict, at times, if you wait for an addict to say, I have a drinking problem and actually I need professional help, you will bury the person before he realizes it. Personally, I'm sober because somebody reached out to me, a person I used to drink with, and a person who came and brought out the good in me. And that's why we're talking about positive psychology. Mm. These days, it's not about how bad you are. Mm. Try and bring out the good in that person. And the person who brought who brought out the good in me and gave me hope, like Kaatha talked about. Mm-hmm. It's just about hope. And why we go public about how we used to drink, not to show how bad we were, how to bring our beautiful faces here on the screen, is to give people hope that recovery is possible. Some people have lost hope. Anaona mtoto wake ameenda down the drain to a point where now they've sold everything. I sold everything. Mm-hmm. And nobody, in fact, everybody had lost hope. In fact, even one of my relatives said, huyu alikufa kitambo, tunagojaga tu aanguke tuzike. Mwingine, I attempted suicide 3 times. Another person says, like, ulikuwa uwa uende wapi na umekataliwa paka na shaitani. So, the day before, I'd gone to church, I'd been thrown out of church. I wanted to get born again, mm-hmm. so that maybe God can save me. Yeah. So the ushers threw me out, simply because I used to pass by there when I'm drunk, mm-hmm. and I used to tell them, nyinyi, mundanikuta binguni, I'll be the one who will be welcoming you. So nyinyi mtaenda kwa shaitani because you are all hypocrites. Uh-huh. So when I went, they saw this person who's been abused, they threw me. I said, no, please don't throw me out. I want to see the pastor because the pastor can pray for me. And then niwache ulevi. I was so tired. And every addict wants to stop. It's only that they are not able to stop. And that's why we call it an addiction. Mm-hmm. So it's painful. It's the worst thing I would wish on the person I hate the most in this world, because addiction is so lonely. It's so traumatizing. You know, nobody wants, because you've been branded, first of all, as a failure, as useless. Especially, it's worse for a woman. You are branded a prostitute. Atiwe umekuwa malaya. And you know, actually, the people you're drinking with, all of us are sexually inactive. In fact, if we get to one room, one woman and 6 men, the only tangible thing we'll do on that bed is to steal from one another. Wewe unangoa kutoka kwa mfuko ya huyu unaweka kwa yako. Wewe ukidosi kidogo na yeye hakuna kitu kingine ya maana, and you're being branded a prostitute. Actually, the people who take advantage of female alcoholics are normal men, because they are the only ones who are sexually active. Wengine, there is nothing. The only thing he can do ni kukojoa kwa kitanda. Hakuna kitu kingine ya maana anafanyaga.
Right, Kaatha, even as you come in, before I get to job on that particular question on, who's an addict? To understand, first of all, before getting into the whole recovery process, first to understand. But then, she was talking about a very interesting bit that all that is done to save a life. Unaambia mtu, unadanganya mtu, hapana, leo tutafika mahali, kumbe they're going into a rehabilitation center. From where you work, does that happen a lot?
People have different ways they got into rehab, and it does happen. It does happen, and there are those who we talk with today, and they are glad that happened. I'll just give a story of a young man, a man who is in recovery and has a rehabilitation center somewhere in Kenya. He tells me he was drinking drunk one day. He was stopped by the cops, or he must have gone with those roadblock, those things. I remember those. So he says he found himself in a police cell somewhere. And the OCPD said, or the OCS said, instead of taking these people mahakamani and getting them into remand, he called a rehab owner, and all those people who had been arrested were taken to a rehab in Moranga. He says that was what saved his life. By the first week, despite the withdrawals, he was feeling better, because he had never been sober for a week for the last 15 years. And he was able to face the reality in rehab, because in rehab there's so many things that happen there. You rediscover yourself, you're explained to what addiction is, you address the underlying issues. So for me, I at times I would advocate for that. Today as I speak, many of the people I used to drink with are no more, they're resting. And most of them was through road accidents. Because when you're drinking, and I used to do that as well, we used to say the car knows its way home. Gari najua nyumbani. And I remember just even the people I used to hang out with, others would take the keys and etc. Keys, try and block me, but in one way or another I would find myself out of that place in a drunken stupor. And obviously I did have accidents, near death. I survived 1, 2, 3, I can name them. So you can save someone by taking them. You tell them 5 o'clock nataka tuende hapa juu. It can save our life. But it is important also to get consent from the person, because when they agree, then they know what they're getting themselves into, and they'll be able to go through the steps, accepting that they do have a challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
Kithinji, even as you now tell us, who's an addict, first of all, but then now there are other scenarios where, fine, this person was taken to rehab the first time, but then now there are other instances where he or she is going for the second or third time, or even for the 10th time. Is there what's now wrong? Is there anything wrong with now going again to the 10th time to the rehabilitation center?
Allow me to add something first.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenges with substance abuse, even alcoholism, there are some stages when it gets to that stage, the individual no longer has the capacity to make a decision that benefits their own well-being. In some cases, the condition can be so severe that it not only puts the individual at risk, but it puts other people at risk. So that's even by law. One of the guiding principles is that treatment does not have to be voluntary to be effective. In that if we wait for long, maybe this person might not make it or might be putting other people at risk. So sometimes when somebody is repatriated from the environment without knowledge, it is one, first of all, to help regain their health, as well as also safeguard the family, and in the process they gain insight. Now, in regards to why might people do treatment more than once, we need to understand we are dealing with a chronic condition. And sometimes in dealing with chronic condition, the key is management. Conditions recur. Like if somebody was suffering from cancer, has gone through the whole proper treatment, has done chemo, has done radiation, then the cancer recurs. Even before we start asking them why did the cancer recur, we need to treat that cancer. So in addiction, the same scenario happens, that people will go through treatment, then once they leave treatment, one or another scenario leads them back to use. It could be the first time they had gone there to regain their health and they believe, yes, I was an addict because I smoked bangi, but now I can quit bangi and go to Tusker. But the result is all the same. This is why we speak of the disease of addiction. Once you meet the criteria to be considered to have an addictive disorder, it means any mood-altering substance you take will lead to the same decision. Then we are saying, see the individual as a human being. He could have gone through treatment, gone back to work, to life, doing life very well. Then he meets a severe traumatic experience, maybe loss of a loved one. So such experiences can take people back. And this is why we are emphasizing on continuous contact with a professional. However, in our field, we say there is a number of people who might not get it right the first time. Like for me, I did it thrice before I finally got the hang of it.
So the first time, how many months should it be? Because
I know the first time I relapsed after a day.
My question is basically now for the rehabilitation process, because many rehabilitation centers that I interact with, they'd probably tell you for 3 months, and then after they have a follow-up with you. Is it a common practice to have maybe 3 months, and why?
Depending on the program that an institution runs.
Okay.
The needs are usually met within that period of time. Within that period of time, stabilization will have been done. Further assessment for any underlying psychiatric condition will have done. Then the reintegration with the society will have been done. However, nowadays we use an approach that is not institution-based, but is individual-based. That once an individual comes, a proper needs assessment is done, all the needs are identified, and what I need you to understand is that some needs will be taken care of beyond the rehab. So when we say they do a stint in rehab, the stint in rehab mostly stabilization, because sometimes this person has not been able to build the resolve to thrive on the outside world. Because remember, it is the individual who changes, the environment remains the same. We've had scenarios where somebody leaves rehab, with a welcoming committee from the fellow alcohol users and the former sellers. So we need to build on it. So you had asked who is an addict.
Yes.
I'll put it, who has a substance use disorder, because sometimes when we put the word addict, we think of the chronic cases. One, many people start from a point of innocence. Nobody starts using so that they can be helpless or unable to manage themselves. Two, many will use with what is called the legal highs. They'll start with the Hennessy's, they'll start with the Jamesons, they'll start with the Tusker, then the habit gets to them. So how can you tell you are an addict? Is there a pattern that is emerging? You used only to drink on Fridays, nowadays you do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Has there been a significant increase in the amount you imbibe? I used to do like a kilo of mera. Now I do like 2-3 kilos. I used to chew only on Friday. I start on Friday, I stop on Sunday.
Or some would start, some say Thursday is the new Friday. So.
And so you see, there's the escalation. Once you see there's an escalation in the habit, then there's need to be worried. Then once you find that your body is able to hold copious amount of the substance, it means your body is building the tolerance. It has learned not to fight it. Many people will tell you their first time experience with alcohol, they vomited. It was so bad, they said they'll never use it, but they found themselves back. So in addition, sometimes the body finds a mechanism of accommodating the drug. But while the drug is in the body, it's not, ni ule mgeni ana heshima. Ukimwacha sitting room, akai sitting room, ataingia bedroom, afuruge kila kitu. So by the time anatoka amekumesa. Unaona? So the body gets used to the presence of alcohol, such that you remove alcohol, the person becomes dysfunctional. So rule number 3 is, once you find yourself that your drug of choice becomes the centerpiece. Let me give an example with the young fellas. If they have to go out, you have to pack some crates in the car. Ni kweli? When you go for burial, watu wakizikana kwa shopping center unaku. So you see, even in your salary, there is a budget for, you won't call it alcohol, but there's a budget for fun. So we see now the habit is becoming part of you, you are accommodating it. Then you find that your lifestyle changes. You're spending more time in places where there is booze, with people who use, and automatically your environment starts communicating. It is the HR telling you lately, hey, last weekend you overdid it. It is your wife telling you, hey, nowadays you are a stranger to me. And then you start having excuses. Jana nilikunywa sana juu ni kadha alininunulia. Unaelewa? So
ingine ilikuwa tu juga mazishi.
Ilikuwa bahati mbaya. So once you find that let's use alcohol. Alcohol has become a centerpiece of your life in anything you do. Even if you're not staggering or lying in the ditches, you're already having an alcohol use problem, and you need to do something about it. Inafika mahali unakutana, you can only do soft foods, vitu kaa sukuma huwezi kula. Ukiamkia asubuhi ni Coca-Cola baridi. Tuko pamoja. Headaches kwa mfuko. You see now the damage is set in. Umeanza unaona nikana describe mtu hapa. You see, atatuongelesha after here. Once you see, and you see for somebody not to become totally dysfunctional, it will take a period of time. Because they'll start saying you are unable to meet your obligations, you are unable to go to the school meetings, you are unable to meet your job targets. You know, now your friends start avoiding you. Even in some cases, you find that I've had several people who use drugs tell me, even the peddler told him he needs to stop using.
So hiyo level pia na relax.
Unaona kwambia hata wewe enda polepo. So what most of us focus on is when it is totally dysfunctional, when people can no longer go to work, when they are no longer able to maintain their hygiene, when they are no longer able to pay rent. One of the things that we want to encourage people, you don't have to wait until it is too late. Because alcohol, like any other chronic condition, treatment outcomes might be poor. So the earlier, just like cancer, the earlier you get to the cancer,
the better.
The higher the treatment rate. So the higher we get to an individual with a drug use problem, the better the chances of healing. But we need to know addiction is more of a brain disease. And once it is sets in, it's not even about using the drug, it's about how your body reacts to it. Because even a drunkard, even having 1,000 shillings in the pocket is enough to make him feel high. Because he knows he'll be able to afford the drink in there. Unlike if he's here, he doesn't have a shilling, he cannot concentrate. So what we are saying, addiction is not necessarily when you're totally dysfunctional. A substance use problem is when substance use or abuse has become a centerpiece of your life. And when you've realized, like we've said, sometimes the individual using drugs might be the last to know they have a problem. So if family members, the community sees that there's a problem, reach out for help. Actually, when you are calling us, you don't call us for the person to be admitted. You just tell us, I have person X, I think there's a problem. Then they'll come for us for an assessment. And when assessment is done, then you're able to place the person on we call it the continuum of care, which best treatment approach will work. And one of the things I'm happy about is, like nowadays we work in a multidisciplinary team. When people go to hospital, like even some hospitals now, from interaction with us as practitioners and NACADA, they even are able to ask some questions. Because I remember the time there was the alcohol purge. You know, alcohol withdrawals can mimic other conditions. So people are being taken to hospital shivering, sweating. vomiting, this person has never eaten. So the medic there thinks this guy has a chronic bout of malaria. Kumbe ni saa akipiga sindano ya quinine si mtu anaenda kienda zake. So they've learned to do the intake. Do you take alcohol? Do you smoke? And so when they realize there's a problem, they refer them to us. Us on the other hand, when somebody comes apart from having an alcohol problem, are you presenting with any biomedical condition? How are your pressures or your sugar? Even before I start counseling you, I send you to the doctor. Then if I'm sent this 13-year-old boy who's discovering alcohol, I don't have to lock him with adults in the rehab. I send her to Kaatha, and I tell Kaatha, just talk with this kid, talk some sense to them, let them know where they're heading to. So we work as a team. So when it comes to the treatment of addiction, people need to know it's not just about rehab.
And because our time is really up.
Yes.
And speak of working as a team now, Matthu, now as where you sit, the authority definitely, do you work with neighboring countries? Because I mean, I'd say, fine, you're closing bars in Kiambu. Let me go to Tanzania and get some cheaper konyagi, or maybe some in Uganda and get cheaper brew there. Are you working with Tanzania and also Uganda and other East African authorities to ensure that as we also concentrate the fight against drug abuse in Kenya, that fight is also concentrated in other parts so that we reduce the proliferation of drug use across the borders?
Yes, we are working with the neighboring countries. For example, even right now, we have some members of parliament from a neighboring country who are here to see how we do things. And actually, they were telling us that alcohol in their country, the timings and the laws surrounding alcohol consumption are very, very strict. When it comes to miraa, and yes, especially miraa, it's like no-go zone. It's like they're about to ban it now. So, working with the neighboring countries is very important, because actually what happens now, tukimwaga pombe hapa, Busia, they'll cross over to Uganda. In Uganda, they've licensed their changa. Tanzania, they've licensed their changa, which is easier to control, because now these ones are being sold in the bus, and the bus have the time, to the operation time. So, although they still have panya routes even there in Uganda and even in Tanzania. Because I remember there's a time when we went as Nakada to Oloitoktok. So we decided to cross the border to eat fish. So one of our team members decided to drink. So the other one was telling him, unajua tuko Tanzania, so if you get arrested na hapa hatujui kuhongana. Tutaenda kuambia mdosi tulikuja Tanzania kufanya nini. So we are working together, because addiction or substance abuse, it's a global problem. It's not only that Kenya we have a problem, it's a global problem. So it's important for us to know what they are doing and what we are doing, and work as one. Yes. Right.
Kaatha, now because of out of time here, I'll see we have about 2 minutes or so to wrap it up, but then your last words, your parting shots, again, in like a month from now, your CBO will be marking 1 year later. What do you look forward to when it comes to even matters, recovery process? How should the society be taking up this matter?
I first want to commend the government of Kenya, because when you have a president who's at the forefront against alcohol and drug abuse and has executive orders to the office of the deputy president, and then you have a second lady, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, who is out of passion, out of calling, speaking about such matters that affect the family, then people start listening, people wake up. So I want to just thank God for people having that concern and it trickling to the community level. Because everyone is talking about illicit brews and alcoholism and addiction, you find even in the community, people are talking about the challenges they are having in their homes. And the difference now is there are recovery solutions. Someone is offering help in one way or another. Because I work in the community, mainly in Kiambu County, I've seen how the church has been involved. with the church I go to personally, there is a service at 8 o'clock for those people who are living with an addiction. And that one is able to address them in a certain way. And I've seen a program work well, which is called APEC, and they have partnered with NACADA, and I have to also commend APRAC and all these organizations, because now is the time to really speak about it, not be ashamed about it, and get solutions. As we commemorate 1 year, our Sober Living Youth Summit was last year in November. We definitely will do an anniversary, the first anniversary in November, and I believe this year it will be bigger and even better, because corporates are watching, they are concerned, because through their HR, they have concerns with their workforce and they want solutions. We're looking at the mental health space, the addiction space, but who is our focus? The community, the young people, having such forums to be able to discuss. I'm also urging the governors, through the Council of Governors, can we have these discussions? Bring us there so that we can also work hand in hand to offer solutions. It could be from a personal point of view, a family or community. But as long as we are speaking, as long as we are telling people, yes, you went the wrong way, yes, your life is taken detours, there's a possibility of rebuilding. Accept this challenge, seek help, and you've had all the resource centers that are available, and then let us walk the journey unashamed and bold. And we're doing this for posterity, because if we don't do this now, our children, their children will struggle, will suffer. And I believe with that goodwill and that environment, we're in the right space. We also go into schools planting trees. We found at times to engage the youth, you need to do something that will capture their minds. So as we are creating awareness, as we are doing all those things, we are also planting trees. And we have a youth group that is vibrant, and we are going everywhere, and we are willing to come to your schools and to just work together. It is better to prevent than to cure. But if you already have this challenge, know there is help, and do not suffer on your own.
Okay, thank you. Because of time, we really have to wrap it up there, but then thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having this particular discussion. Most definitely, I have learned a lot of this. I'm definitely sure have your own takeaway out of this. And Matthu, the Vice Chair of NACADA Board, Job Kithinji Maina.